So this is the video about how Crystal works. Crystal is the tool that I'm working on. This is the GitHub page for Crystal, which I will be referring to when need be, because Crystal actually tells us about how the one person is actually doing compared to the other person, and these diagrams, these crystal shapes actually tell you if your the repositories are in sync, whether you're ahead or whether you're behind. Now, as part of the second project, I have two people, Bob and Jane, and the third person being is the shared or the mastery. And now here what I'm doing is I'll create a repository. That's what I'm doing here. So just create. This is what the repository looks like. And now the other two, for instance, Bob will be a clone. And now here in the browse, in the source, I will actually put the where is my second project? Yeah, so in the source I'm going to put this. See, source is share and that is clone, and now it is being cloned. And similarly for Jane, I'm choosing the source as this one. See, and now cloning it. Same thing. Now we want to be able to know which are the people who are actually committing, and that is why we need to go, where do we need to go? Repository settings. Okay, cool. So now the repositories have been created, and now one of the most important part is to go to the config files, which it will be there in your username. So this is the config file which is actually going to be there, and now I'm gonna configure it. So this is what the config file looks like. I have actually configured it. You will see the project name as my second project. This is the directory of the master share, and the Bob and the Jane are the ones that have been cloned. So now I'm gonna save it. Now this is the configuration file for Crystal. So now this has been saved, and now it's the time to run Crystal. Yeah, so as the crystal opens up, you will actually see these sort of crystal shapes, which actually mean that it is actually gathering data from the configuration files and linking up. So this is the information that you will get. Yeah, these three arrows actually tell us that okay, that all the three are actually in perfect sync, and the other two arrows actually tell us that one is ahead and one is behind, and the meaning will actually become clear. Now we will go in Bob and create a new application over here through Visual Studio. Okay, now so for Bob, I've created this application, and now this application is actually going to be saved into his folder. That's what I mean. Now I can see that in the Bob's folder, demo application is there, and now what I need to do is I need to commit these changes because certain set of changes has occurred. And to commit the changes, this is what you have to do. Bob's first change, and then commit, add. So changes of Bob have been committed, and you can see that demo application is there and a right tick is there besides the folder. And now what I'm going to try and to do is push these changes to the shared folder. Is now you can see it is there. The graph is also there. This is the working directory of which I am working on, and now I'm going to push these changes. So it will say it will be successful pushing changes to see files are actually being copied. You can see over here. Now Jane will pull the changes. So Bob has actually pushed them, and she will pull those changes. See, it says it is pulling from the shared. Okay. The second step is to make sure that whatever Jane has pulled, it actually appears her in folder, and therefore you have to go to the update to do that. Now this is Jane's folder, the application is here, and now we will try to open it in Visual Studio and make some changes. So now, like, I'm gonna make some changes to the application when the page opens up. And we can make some changes. And then we can save it. Okay, and now Jane will commit. Yeah, so these are the Jane's changes, and now we are committing those changes. Now as Jane has made the committed, she's not pushed it to the source. And now what we will do, we will go to the Bob's, assume that the Bob meanwhile actually makes some changes to that file. So I mean, Jane's text change, the one that she changed from 16px to 48px, it will not be reflected because she is not pushed into it. So the idea behind Crystal is that Crystal actually tells you about merge conflicts. Whenever some conflict is going to be there, it will tell you information regarding that in advance so that people can take care of it in advance. right? And now Bob is gonna push these changes after performing a commit, a second commit. And now we will go to the Mercurial workbench. HG actually stands for Mercurial. It is a command for Mercurial. You are seeing over here. And now I'm going to go over here because it will say push outgoing changes. And now I'm pushing changes. And now push has been completed. Now I will go to Jane. I mean, imagine that Jane is working. That guy has already pushed his changes, and now Jane will try to push the changes to the shared. And now there's a conflict, right? Pushing. So now it will be an error. It says pull before you push. So now we pull, and you can see clearly that she needs to pull. So Mercurial tells us this. So basically, the Jane's the arrow that you saw in the beginning, it was that because Jane's changes were actually lagging behind Bob's changes. So that is one important part. So one thing that I'd like to mention again, I mean, it's a pretty useful tool, but one thing that I'd like to mention again is that you need to very carefully look into the this file, the configuration file, and look for those changes very clearly. So here, like, this is a configuration file, and in the installation text file that is there on the desktop, you will find that a similar configuration file has been uploaded by the author of the tool. And there are, I mean, the first project is actually there uploaded on the Dropbox. A Dropbox file sharing service is utilized for it, because the idea is that the people can be in different parts of the world as well. So there may be two developers who are working on one particular project, and there's one single repository, and they're working on different parts. So you want to share it with as many number of people as you want, and you have to keep on adding the different repositories as you keep on creating them. And Crystal, with the help of its shapes, which actually keeps on varying it, and you'll see that it actually runs on your desktop, and you'll know that certain changes are actually happening or not. So the arrow that you saw initially when I started the entire thing, the demo, I would say, the green arrow that was downwards, as you will see, that it actually showed that Jane is actually behind Bob, and Bob was actually in sync because he actually pushed those changes.